snowblower is a Radtech made for John Deere SB 1164. On either end we put 5-inch wings to make it an 1174. This way the width of the blower mouth will now go outside the front wheels, so there's no tires in the snow. Okay, the front end is basically designed like the back end of a tractor. We have a lower lift arm, hydraulic ram, and basically like a cherry picker for if you're having an engine lifting jack in your garage. So basically it's a hydraulic 12-volt pump inside the van, hooked to the ram, which pulls it up on a 10,000-pound strap all the way down. Will enable it to be in like a float mode. So when this thing is on the ground blowing snow, this can stay solid. The blower can go up and down. And underneath here, it's bolted to the blower on this bottom arm so it cannot pivot. So the blower can't fall forward. Normally you would run a top link off a tractor, but we don't have the framing for that up top. So by making it solid at the bottom, it'll pivot down here and the strap will allow it to float. So underneath here we have a PTO shaft, farm implement shaft, all bought from Princess Auto. And I have another PTO shaft down underneath that runs under to the back seat of the van. And you'll see the belt drive here in a minute. So it's all PTO driven from the back of the engine to the back of this blower. Okay, so the PTO shaft that comes underneath stops on the bottom pulley under the floor of the van. Belt drive to the top, PTO shaft to a chain drive in the back, and that's what powers the blower. The motor is a 1967 inline 6 Chevy engine, approximately 120 horsepower. And all that power is directed straight to the blower. It runs nothing but the blower. For this,
adjusting belts.
The actuator, another Princess Auto part, is a 250-pound actuator. And it makes these belts pretty tight. And they don't slip. Okay, the chain drive is right off the crankshaft of the engine. I had a weld-on hub machined down to fit the rear of the crank. Chain drive with an idler. And with this system, based on 2,500 RPM of the engine, which is the maximum RPM that we're running this motor, The blower is actually being overrun. We're at around 690 RPM on the blower, and it should be 540 as it would be on the back of a tractor. So at this speed, eventually it's going to be too hard on the blower, and although it does throw snow approximately 60 to 70 feet, it's still too hard on the blower, and this chain drive is going to get removed. Next summer will be a belt drive put on the back with a smaller pulley on the crank and a larger pulley up top. And using the calculators, the blower should be back down to about 570 RPM, which is a lot more easier on the gearbox and a lot cheaper. So right now, chain drive for this season, and next year will be a 4-belt drive. Okay, now the fact that we used a van to do this, normally most people would likely use a truck, which I would recommend. But unfortunately I don't have any trucks, and I've got about 10 vans. So the van was a natural choice. We had to put up a wall to separate the rear fumes and any smoke or any exhaust in the back to keep it from coming up to the front. It's fully sealed all the way around with a window in it to see into the back in case there's anything going on that, you know, chains flying off, fire, whatever might happen back there, I can see it. Now the gas cans, unfortunately, we ran out of time this season to remove the tanks out of the back of the van and plumb into the main tank under the van, and that'll be next season as well. Those gas cans are coming out, and a tank will be put in its place underneath so that there's no fuel inside the van. The dashboard is pretty simple. It's just sort of a beginner's dashboard right now, just to get the buttons and switches and ignition and exciter button for the alternator off the floor and just onto something where I can actually get to them when I'm snow blowing. And the throttle stop, in order to take it from idle to 2500, is that. Idle, 2500. And the tack for the rear engine lets me know where I'm at. So it's a pretty simple system. It looks a little cavemanish, but all it has to do is it just has to work. And it works very well. We still have to put some guards on everything, cover the belts. And again, there'll be a belt guard at the back to cover those belts, a guard to cover the PTO shafts. But right now we've run out of time for the season, although we don't have any snow right now. We're working outside, not in a garage, so we are kind of limited to what we can do when we can do it. So for now, this is the system. It's an 89 Chevy Astro van with a V6. Chains on the back wheels. Some off-road tires. And that just a regular limited slip rear end and so far this thing has not gotten stuck since the chains went on. And that's about it. That's the system.